Should we try this again? Should be. 3 times I tried to shoot this video before and just one thing and another went wrong. 4 times the charm. You're not happy, are you? No. Poor Rusty, he was going to switch to RF and now he doesn't like them anymore. You've probably seen all this in the news, but a couple of weeks back, possibly even longer than that, I made a video about third-party lenses, and I had a look through all of the third-party lenses that were available for the different mounts. So like E-mount, for example, it's not open source, but Sony are pretty liberal with who they allow to produce autofocusing lenses. So pretty much every third-party manufacturer that produces camera lenses produces them available for Sony E-mount. Nikon Z-mount didn't have as many, but they've started to see some more come into the fray recently. But I was very startled by how few third-party lenses were available for RF, and specifically the pretty much non-existence of any autofocusing lenses. Pretty much everything was manual focus. Lauer made a dozen or so lenses. Lens Baby had a few. Samyang had 2 of their old manual focusing lenses, but I think maybe they had 1 autofocusing lens. I think possibly their 85mm was available in autofocus. That then disappeared. More recently, Viltrox, who are a Chinese lens manufacturer that I've reviewed a few of their lenses, they produce pretty budget-friendly but pretty good quality lenses. They started to release some of their older lenses, still current, but ones that have been on the market for a while, bring them out in Nikon Z-mount, and also 1 or 2, I believe, in RF. Anyway, news story has hit yesterday at the time of filming this that I think it was through DP Review, one of their users possibly had shared a conversation that they'd had with Viltrox. Basically, I think they own an RF camera, they'd bought an RF Viltrox lens, and then they'd gone to update the firmware and found that the website had no links for RF firmware. So they'd messaged Viltrox to ask where was the RF firmware, and Viltrox's response was basically that Canon had been in touch with them and told them they were no longer allowed to sell RF products. So no lenses and so no subsequent firmware. Now, that might seem quite surprising to a few people. To others, it's something that's been suspected for a while. Many people have questioned, is this lack of third-party lenses because manufacturers just physically couldn't figure out how to make lenses compatible with RF? Was it that they wanted to and Canon wouldn't allow them, or was it that they just weren't interested? In reality, it was never going to be the third, but it seemed strange that they wouldn't try or wouldn't be able to work it out. The likes of Sigma and Tamron, back in the DSLR days, they produced countless lenses for EF mounts. They were the mainstay for a lot of people. The third-party lenses were the go-to choice for a cheaper alternative. And then if you wanted the higher grade stuff, you'd go to the Canon and the Nikon lenses. But then Sigma and Tamron started to up their game slightly, I think, and started to edge more into the premium. But I think by that point, there wasn't much that maybe Canon could do about it. Now, with the shift to mirrorless and a whole new system from scratch, it seems that Canon have taken the opportunity to completely shut off their mount from any third-party interference. So it seems if you were an RF user and you were ever hoping for some third-party lenses to come along, that's gone sailing out the window now. You're stuck with Canon lenses only. And this is split opinion somewhat. I mean, I can see both sides of the argument. On the one hand, you think, well, if they're closing off their mount to any third party, then that means that all RF users have to buy lenses direct from Canon. So that's more lenses sold for Canon, more revenue. Is that good business sense? But on the flip side, like it or not, third-party lenses are a big deal for a lot of people. Some people swear blind only to first party. Some people, like myself, have a mix of both. Other people won't touch first party lenses because they're just seen as overpriced, too expensive for what you get, when you can get similar performance for a lot less from a third party. And some people only use third party lenses. It's each to their own, obviously. So if you're either a current RF user and you're seeing all these third-party lenses come out for the likes of Sony and Nikon and thinking, oh, I'd love one of them on the RF camera, maybe you've got people who have invested initially in the RF system but are now not sure about it because this third-party option's been closed off, or anyone who is a prospective, camera buyer who's open to any of the mounts, could be looking at the RF system and thinking, well, the RF cameras look great, but all of the lenses are either expensive or don't fit particularly what I'm looking for. And, Sony or Nikon have a lot of good cameras, but a lot more lenses, and I could buy a camera and 2 or 3 third-party lenses for the price of a Canon camera with just one lens. And they might end up choosing another manufacturer. Well, if you never buy an RF camera to begin with, you're not buying any of the lenses either. And having a much smaller base, consumer base, then means you're making a lot less sales overall. And it's weird because it's not an old expression, and it's not even an expression. It's one of two. It's either cameras are for Christmas and lenses are for life, or cameras are like a girlfriend and lenses are like your wife. Basically, people swap their camera bodies far more often than they swap their lenses in general. Lenses don't outdate the same way that camera bodies do. So you buy a camera body, you use it for 2 or 3 years. By that point, it's been superseded by something better. It's started to get worn out. You'll change the camera body. Your lenses don't do that. Not as often, so you're more likely to buy a new camera than you are new lenses. If you've cut your consumer base down by snubbing third-party lenses in the hope of making a few more lens sales, you're potentially going to find that you're selling a lot less cameras as well. And it could be actually quite harmful. And judging from the overall reaction, it seems far more weighted towards people not being happy with this decision than people either not caring or being in favor of it. I've even seen comments from some RF users who were hoping for third-party options to become available, who are considering or have sold all of their RF gear and moved to a different system because of the lack of third-party lenses for the RF. And this news today only goes to further confirm that there won't be any third-party options. And I can see a lot more people now either turning away from Canon or, who were potentially considering moving to Canon, now snubbing them off completely. So, yes, there's two sides to the argument. Personally, I sit more in the third party's a good option. It's a good, whether you like it or not everyone can afford first party lenses. And despite some belief, there are third party lenses that are very, very good. Back when I was on Canon DSLRs, I had 3 Canon lenses, but I also had 5 Sigma lenses. One of which was the 120-300, and Canon didn't offer an equivalent to that. That was a completely unique lens. And then the 4 prime art lenses, the 24, 35, 50, and 85, which Canon had equivalent L lenses, but they were significantly more expensive. And even now, having moved to Sony, I own a mix of 3 Sony prime lenses, but also other third-party lenses. I've got 2 of Tamron's zoom lenses and a Tokina prime lens. And again, the 2 Tamron lenses, the 28-75 and the 70-180, both of those, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. They work fantastic. I mean, there's a reason they are so popular. But if I'd wanted to buy, if like Sony had closed off their mount to any third-party users, to get that sort of to get those sorts of types of lenses would have cost me close to £2,000 more for the G Masters, right? Which for some people just is pie in the sky levels of money that you cannot afford. So third party, I think, definitely has a place in the market for making a system overall more appealing. And I'm very surprised that Canon have gone and done what they've done. I mean, to be fair, if any manufacturer was going to do it, Canon would be the one that I would expect to do it, but I'm still surprised that they've actually seemingly done this. But what do you make of the entire saga? Do you think it's a wise move from Canon? Do you think it's a negative move from Canon? Are you an RF user? And how are you weighing this up? Do you not care about it, or are you looking at something else? Let me know your thoughts and comments down below while you're down there. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't already done so, then please consider hitting the like and subscribe button, and then hopefully we'll see you in the next video. I know, don't cry. Don't cry, it's okay. He's upset.